What's up, ladies and gentlemen of the internet? Welcome back to my channel. Today I'll be speaking about understanding websites and building your own. So, if you're coming here, some of you might be from the Kolkata WordPress Meetup where I've already given this presentation on Saturday, 27th April. So, I'll just get started. A lot of my clients don't really understand how websites work and what exactly are the different components that you need to build a website. So I think this presentation is really helpful for people who are just getting started and people who want to understand how a website functions and the basic components that you would need to get your own website up and running. So I'll get right to it. So an introduction about myself. I'm basically a web designer and I'm the CEO of Pixelwise. I've been in business for more than 10 years and I've been making websites since I can remember. So we're going to start discussing about the three main components that make up a website. So one is a domain name, second is a web hosting, and number three is web page files. We're going to discuss about each component in detail. We'll start with web page files. So what exactly are web page files? Web page files are basically everything that build up a website. They are HTML files, they are CSS files, they are JavaScript, they are PHP files. So all these files are basically stored on a web server, and when someone enters a URL, these files render into a complete website. And that's what you see on your web browser when you enter a URL. The second thing is a web hosting server. So a web hosting server is where all your files of the website stay. So a good way to explain what a web server is by the house concept. So let's say the web server is a house. If the web server was a house, there would be no one living inside it. An empty house is basically useless, correct? So let's say we added a person to the house and that person lived inside the house. The person living inside the house would basically be the web page files, the website files, which is basically the CSS, the HTML. These would be the different people staying inside the house. Now, let's say we call this person Alex. So, just like every individual, this particular individual has its own identities. The person's name is Alex and they have their own qualities and everything. So, similar to websites, similar to website files, every website file is different, every website is different, every website serves different content and purposes. All right. Now, let's say Alex's house is in a city. All right. If Alex's house was in the city and there were plenty of other houses in the city, it would basically be the World Wide Web. So Alex's house could be considered the server, and the server is basically on the World Wide Web. So the World Wide Web is basically the city. Now, if we want to visit Alex, how do we visit Alex? Let's say Alex was living at an address called 123 Street, New York City. We would need an address to visit him. So that's what a domain name is. So if you think about servers just like any personal computers, any mobile phones, any kind of device that is connected to the internet has a dedicated IP address. Now, if you were to visit the website just using the IP address, you could enter the unique IP address into the browser window, into the URL bar, and you would be able to visit the website and the website would render. Now, imagine this. The IP addresses are long and you can't really remember so many IP addresses. Okay, it's just like contact books. Can you remember every contact number that you would want to call in a day? You cannot. So imagine if you were browsing social media, if you were browsing Wikipedia, if you were just supposed to open YouTube and see a couple of videos, you'd basically need a lot of IP addresses to remember, and that's not possible. So that's where a domain name helps. So the domain name basically creates a mask for the IP address, and it's an easy to remember name. It when you enter a domain name, it connects you to the IP address of the server and it renders the entire website within the browser. So what exactly is domain name service or DNS that you've actually seen and come across plenty of times when you were purchasing a domain name? So a DNS server is nothing else than an exchange server. It basically exchanges information between the main server and between the browser. So a DNS server stores an entire list of domain names and their associated IP addresses. So if I were to enter alex.com into my URL bar, the DNS would resolve the IP address to the server. Then my browser would request that server to send the website files to it. And that's how you get to see an entire website. So, so since we understand DNS right now, we talk about servers and computers. Okay. So a lot of people ask me exactly what a server is. So a server is basically a computer that is on 24/7, 365 days a year. It would be possible to basically host your website on your own personal computer, but it would take up a lot of system resources and you'd again not be able to use your computer. So that doesn't really make sense and it's not really economic. You would also need 24/7 power supply. If there's a power cut, your website goes down. If you lose internet connectivity, your website goes down. And it's really very difficult to maintain servers at your home or just keep a computer on 24/7. It doesn't make sense. So that's exactly where servers come into play. Servers are basically available at hosting agencies and hosting companies. They have data centers with plenty of servers, and these servers basically are on 24/7, 365 days a year, and the server company maintains it. If there's any corrupt hard disk, they fix it. So you don't have to worry much about it. You just rent out the space for the amount of time that you need to get your website up and running. So, in depth, personal computers and web servers, the difference between personal computers and web servers is that a personal computer has limited processing capability, low bandwidth, low power reliability. A web server has high processing speed, it has high bandwidth, 24x7 power supply. Server farms and data centers manage and maintain them for you, which you pay rent for and you use. So I think that basically clears up what exactly a server is. So the next point that I'd like to explain is secure socket layers. Okay, or SSL. So if you visited a website, you see that there's a green color padlock next to every domain name that you enter, every URL that you enter. And if the padlock isn't there, it's basically red in color and you can't access the website, you get an SSL error. So what an SSL does, it creates an encrypted link between a web server and a browser. It keeps online transactions and customer information private. Not if you aren't having a web if you aren't having an SSL certificate, basically a thief can come to your website and they can steal your data. And if you have an SSL certificate, it basically encrypts the entire website and the traffic flowing to and through the website and basically makes the website more secure. So if you were to consider a house without a door, anyone can enter the house and steal stuff. All right. But if you have a door, they can't enter the house. You can only let certain people who want to enter, and certain people who want to leave. So that's exactly what an SSL certificate is. An SSL certificate can be compared to the door of a house. Private emails. So a lot of people get confused between what exactly a private email is and why don't we just use gmail.com. Private emails look more professional. And private emails would be such as mail@alex.com. You've probably seen different companies and their employees have private emails such as info@example.com, example replacing the company name. So if you were to consider the server to be a house, the private email would basically be letterboxes, and if there were many people living in the house, you'd have many letterboxes within the same address. Now, another last point that I'd like to explain is shared versus dedicated servers. This is an important information that people who are getting started must understand. Now, a lot of people who have even like a 2-3 page website and are probably getting 30 to 40 visitors a month, they really think that it's a good idea to take a dedicated server, but it isn't. They think like of if I'm taking a shared server is basically a lot of other people have access to my server, but it does not work like that. So hosting companies have various servers, and on one particular server, they might share particular system resources with other people and other users, because a lot of the websites on shared hosting don't get enough traffic and aren't really big websites to have like a dedicated hosting for it. And shared hostings are more economic, they're cost effective, and basically pocket friendly, whereas dedicated servers are very expensive. So if we were to consider servers to be a building, let's say you're just one person and you're living inside the whole building. Okay, that doesn't make sense. You wouldn't be able to use every resource that is available in the building, and at the same given time, you wouldn't be able to spend all your time in all the flats in the apartment building, right? So you just rent out a flat and you just live within the flat, and other people can rent out other flats and live within it. So it's basically cheaper than buying the entire building and renting out the entire building just for one person to live in it. Now, a dedicated server requires a lot of files and a lot of people living inside it, basically. So dedicated server basically means that there's going to be a lot of files, there's going to be a lot of traffic. So you need all the resources that is available to you. If we were to consider a server to be a building, then let's say if you're running an office, there's a lot of people that need to use the office space, so it would make sense to rent out the entire building. So that's basically dedicated servers for you. Now, we're going to speak about building your own websites, and I mostly build on WordPress.com. There are several other platforms that you could use to build your website, but we're going to stick to WordPress for this session. So basically, I'll start by explaining what WordPress is. WordPress is a content management system, a CMS that allows you to host and create websites. WordPress is built upon a plugin architecture and a template system, so you can customize your website to fit your business, blog, portfolio, online store. You can design literally anything on WordPress. Another misconception is that WordPress is just for blogging. WordPress isn't just for blogging. Okay, it's a very robust platform and you could use it to develop and design anything. You could even use WordPress to design and develop mobile applications. Currently, there are over 40% of websites on the internet that use WordPress to power their websites daily. Some of the most popular companies that use WordPress are BBC America, NASA, the White House, and the Walt Disney Company. So as you see, it's really popular. The software is really popular and it's really robust, and you could build anything that you want on it. So it's not just limited to blogging. Sure, they do have a lot of blogs, but you can build anything on WordPress. Another popular misconception before we get started is .org versus .com. What exactly is WordPress.org and what exactly is WordPress.com? When you use the software, WordPress.org is basically a self-hosted system. So WordPress.org is basically the code base that you can download and you can install it on any server and you can upload it, install it, configure it, and you have a website running. But right now, all the resources need to be managed by you. You need to buy the server, you need to buy the domain, you need to manage it yourself, you need to install it yourself. It's more flexible, and if you have a lot of tweaks that you're going to make, it makes sense to go with WordPress.org. It's also slightly cheaper than WordPress.com. So what exactly is WordPress.com? WordPress.com is WordPress's in-house hosting solution. They basically host the website for you for a particular subscription. You can pay for it monthly, you can pay for it yearly. You don't need to manage you don't need to manage the software, you don't need to manage the server. It's easy to use and you get all the features along with it. And if you go for higher plans, you get more customization options, such as you can install plugins and you can install third-party themes as well. So if you're just getting started and you don't really know how to manage the server, and if you don't know how to manage the domain name, I think WordPress.com is the way to go. So once you basically install WordPress, this is the dashboard that you're going to see. And this is the dashboard that allows you to control most aspects of the website. You can manage posts, media, pages, and anything. You can upload plugins, themes. Everything that you're going to do is going to be within the dashboard. 5 important things to know as a beginner. So this is really important when you're building a website with WordPress. Themes, plugins, layouts, pages, and posts. These are 5 important components that you need to understand to build a successful website on WordPress. A lot of people don't understand these components and they fail to use WordPress and then go to other systems. So I'm going to explain to you how these things exactly work and what they are. Default themes. So WordPress out of the box is pretty bland and there's nothing much to it. It comes with a bunch of default themes such as the 2022, 2023, 2024 theme, which is the latest one. And out of the box, they're plain and simple and don't really provide a lot of graphic details and they don't really provide a lot of design options. That's where you come to the theme directory. So from the theme directory, you can install several different type of themes to match the design aesthetic of your website. Now, free themes are free for a reason. They don't feature a lot of options and they don't feature a lot of design possibilities that you can use, but they are a good start if you're just getting started. Third-party themes. So third-party themes can be downloaded from sites like ThemeForest. They have some of the most popular WordPress themes that get support very often, and these themes have a ton of functionality, a ton of page builders, a ton of options. They are multi-purpose themes which have basically starter sites that you could import and just edit the site and get your website up and running in no time. So you could consider using third-party themes. They're really good. And if you go to the WordPress popular theme section on ThemeForest, there are some good themes that you can try out. What exactly are plugins? Plugins are basically pieces of software that add functionality to your WordPress website and enhance the user experience. You could use plugins for small features such as adding contact forms to your website, or you could use them for big features to adding portfolios or online stores to your website as well. Understanding what layouts are. This is important for any type of website that you're building. A website basically comprises of three important sections: a header, a body, and a footer. The header is basically the first part of the website. It's mostly fixed throughout the website. It contains a logo, a menu that you can use to navigate the entire website. The website body. This is where most of your content is going to live. It basically comprises of various design elements, various components, various layouts, text and media, images, files. Everything that is here and everything that is visible is going to be in the body section. The footer. Now, just like the header, the footer is a fixed section across all web pages. It has basic information such as copyright, quick links, and sitemaps. A very important thing that you need to understand while building a website on WordPress is pages versus posts. I've seen a lot of people trying to build a page and use posts instead of building the page. Okay, so pages are basically static information and are permanent. They don't really change often. And if you were to create a page, you would have to go to the pages section on the dashboard and create a new page. And posts, on the other hand, are content which is dynamic. It's within the name itself. Posts are basically blogs, news, elements, and all that are basically organized by date. They are dynamic content and you can update them regularly. So that's the difference between pages and posts. Now we'll explain what exactly custom post types are. Now WordPress out of the box has the default post type, which is your blog posts. But what if you were to upload many other different type of posts with different attributes and functionalities tailored to specific content that you have on the website? So if you were to have products, if you were to have events, if you were to have portfolio elements such as this particular site, Nike, this is basically a different post type for products. Product post types, you have event post types, you have portfolio post types, and you can create as many post types that you need. And then you could embed these post types across your website. Now there's two ways currently of designing a website. If you're using the latest WordPress website, you have something new called block themes and FSE. So block themes are basically the new themes that WordPress is building, and they work with the full site editor FSE. So FSE is basically what you see is what you get editor, and you could build like complete websites using it. Another method of building WordPress websites are page builders. So page builders also allow you to visually build websites without any knowledge of coding. So page builders come with a lot of components that are already added. They come bundled with themes, third-party themes that you might get from Theme Forest. They have various page builders such as Elementor, WP Bakery, which is Visual Composer, and many other such page builders. You could also install the page builders from the plugin section and start building your website. And page builders have ready elements, ready blogs that you could use and then just change the content once you have them. They have modules that are pre-built and you could just drag and drop those modules onto your page and you could customize them to your requirement. So that's exactly how you basically design with page builders. Page builders have a user-friendly interface. They have drag and drop elements, boxes, images, buttons, everything that you can just use and drag it onto your main page and design your website, all without touching any code. Lastly, the WP admin dashboard. So this is a feature packed dashboard. You can manage everything from permalinks, from menus to categories, themes, and everything as we spoke earlier from this dashboard itself. And this is where you'll be spending a lot of your time when managing your own WordPress website. And so if you'd like to learn further about WordPress and how it exactly works and how you could make use of it and build your own website, I would recommend you to go to wordpress.com/learn. They have plenty of WordPress resources and official courses that are really good and simple if you're a beginner. This should help you get started with WordPress and help you build a website successfully. So that wraps up everything, and I hope this was helpful to you to understand how websites work and how you can build your own website. So thanks for watching. If you came for the event on the 27th of April, thank you for attending it. Until then, don't forget to like this video because it helps reach other people who would find this useful. Don't forget to subscribe and stay tuned for the channel for more such content like this. Until then, bye bye.